All right. Well, I figure I go in and record a little bit more fun that I had with Audible misadventures while driving to Grandma's. Yes. But I decided to take a look at some, I guess, slightly more popular lit RPG stuff. So I ended up picking up, here, let me bring it up. Here we go. Yes. Because I like Sound Booth Theater. I initially picked up some of their stuff from, God, I'd have to look that up too. Jeez, my brain's just scrambled eggs right now. But initially, this Shadow Sun survival thing. I mean, it's decent. The opening chapters did draw my attention, from the samples, so I decided to listen to it in Audible format. And yeah, it does have some of the game mechanic things that you would expect from such a thing. But I was just kind of more curious because they kind of had the ancient aliens, cosmic angle, and the actual like Norse gods or ancient aliens from other places that visited Earth every once in a while to be like, oh, hey, we want to push along some of your progress. And then, of course, apparently Merlin was a guy who understood this kind of MMO setup system and unlocked ancient secrets, but he didn't share them all with the human public in general or something. I mean, it has some aspects that I enjoy, and some aspects where I'm like if you're setting this kind of in the year, I would say it's probably like the year, like late 2080s or something, maybe almost the year 2100. So some people have more advanced cybernetics and everything, but his dad still is pretty much a red shirt, even with those cybernetics. Like the dad dies fairly early, so does his mom and his little sister. Apparently, these guys want to wipe out about 90% of the human race. So that's one thing. If I do decide to do my own kind of lit RPG venture stuff later, I'm going to definitely have a more utopic kind of uplifting setting where it's like, oh, Earth getting KO'd like that? Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, not that the planet itself was blown up. It's more like these guys made our sun supernova and they moved us more towards the galactic core. Like some sort of, interstellar collective kind of thing from the looks of it. So, yeah, it's honestly the overall meta, like the wider thing of the setting is interesting more so than it's kind of like the ground level stuff. Some reviewers complained that the main character hasn't really reacted to his family's death. But the thing is, though, the way this thing's set up, they don't really have time to grieve at the moment. I'm only on chapter 3 from the Audible, so they really, all of them haven't, the survivors haven't had the time to be like stop and think and genuinely mourn for lost family and friends and everything. So, like, if it goes over that later, then okay, fine. But me personally, when it comes to some of these things, unless it's like a kind of like murder mystery or some sort of like, internal horror thing, I don't really expect the book to cover that side of things. I rather have the plot move along. That's like another thing about expectations. Like, what does the reader really want to key in on? Some people go for that more internal kind of horror element or grieving element. They want to see that. Me personally, I could care less right now. I just want to escape to some sort of other adventure right now. Existential dread, I don't mind that as much because I rather have it man versus external environment than anything else. I don't really need man versus internal, like hemorrhaging and things like that, just as an example. And yes, I remember the initial set that got me introduced to Sound Booth Theater as far as like Audible format was M.R. Forbes' Hell's Rejects, which is like kind of like a cosmic space fantasy setup where the one lady ends up using like some of the enemy's tech against them to take them off the game board, as it were. I mean, he doesn't have, like, in terms of that series, it wasn't McEdge characters for McEdge's sake, because everybody knows how I feel about those types of characters right now. It's just not it's not clicking with me. If you happen to like those kind of like internal, segue characters where they're just, agonizing over every decision they do, it's like, yeah, some people genuinely enjoy that. Me, I'm just like, nope, give me the external factor. But yeah, I've noticed though lately the Sound Booth Theater guys have really jumped into the whole lit RPG stuff. Like majority of their projects are lit RPG projects. I'm just trying to understand like why certain things are catching on the way the way it's happened. But even within that particular genre, or setup or wheelhouse, they don't have as much, science fiction bent. So when something has a more sci-fi bent to it, I automatically will give it a bit more of a look-see. So, that's what I'm doing right now with this thing. Yeah, you just never know. It turns out, like, the way that the guy implements this game system, it's like some people will have more natural inclinations towards something. Apparently, again, humans are the more of the underdogs in this setting. And as I was ending the one chapter, apparently they get more XP so far, even at lower levels, if they kill other humans. So I imagine that's probably going to lead to some PvP scenarios later. But personally, I rather try to look into things where, people will legitimately band together and not go for the "we are the monsters" angle, because I'm gonna be honest, guys, I'm sick to death of that angle too. It's like, we are the monsters. Oh, if you get superpowers, you're gonna automatically beat the evil Superman. It's like, oh god, not this again. But luckily, I haven't seen too much of that in this whole setup. So at least there's that. And apparently there's some other fighting in some of these reviews about how some of these lit RPG writers are like having infighting and causing trouble for each other. It's just like, I don't know too much about that, so I'm not even going to bother with it much. It's just something that I've seen in some of these reviews. It's like, okay. I mean, even another lit RPG thing I saw that goes like a little bit more of a science fiction bent is where it's like, oh, something invades Earth and Earth gets KO'd again. I mean, the big difference between the two of the one I was listening to today and this one is Earth really does get completely decimated in this other series. So that's one thing that I am kind of just like, really? You're gonna just KO Earth and it's gonna be like bye-bye again? So yeah, that's something I'm going to endeavor to shy away from if I decide to write a lit RPG series. And yeah, I mean, depending on the tech level also of Earth, I would think that some of our weapons should be more effective. That's another thing I've found in some lit RPG stuff, especially when Earth gets KO'd. If they're supposed to be more advanced than we are currently, like they're say like even 100 years in more advanced than we are, it ends up where it's like, why don't our high-tech weapons work versus, the protagonist manages to make a makeshift spear, made out of rebar and concrete and like old-time monster leather, just like what happens in this particular setup, and yet that seems to be more effective than, say, the firearms and other regular modern stuff that we got. It's kind of a weird juxtaposition. Like, the weapons are having a hard factor with that, like, where it's like this tech should work and it should do more damage to these monsters, but then you got common elements like, say, I think there's like an acidic element in the cleaning liquid that they had in their house ended up tearing through the octopus creature because it wasn't very resistant against acid or acid-based products, but yet our weapons... Our lovely Pew Pew weapons in this particular setting, which is supposed to be even, I would say, 50 years more advanced than what we are right now. It's like, why aren't those more effective? What? So yeah, I guess in some ways, certain things should have a little bit of more of a consistency factor. But that's just a minor quibble on my end. Like, I'm just wishing that the actual legitimate Pew Pew was more effective. So, how about you guys? Have a good day, everybody.